Well, it's been fascinating this week to watch as Rupert Murdoch has been Murdocked. That is, he's become the focus of a media feeding frenzy. Dramatically closing the News of the World wasn't enough. Now he's been forced to drop News Corp's bid for the rest of B Sky B. In the United States, the FBI is investigating. In Australia, there's rumblings of a media inquiry. For a share market view of all these events, I spoke to Scott Maddock from 2MG Asset Management on Friday. Well, Scott, News Corp shares have been dumped. Is this a psychological reaction from the market to the phone hacking scandal, or is there an element there of the price being adjusted for the fact that the B Sky B takeover is not going to go ahead?
I think it's primarily a psychological reaction, Alan. I don't think that they had really accorded too much value for the takeover of B Sky B as yet. The cash flow issue is, by and large, not too big a deal at the moment. Clearly, News of the World was going to be, in short term, a loss-making operation because the advertisers just weren't going to be there and the public were going to stop buying it. So they closed it, smart move, get it over and done with. Longer term, you can see that effect potentially flowing on to the other UK newspapers. So that will make them less profitable in the near term. Well,
that's only a small proportion of the News Corp revenue, isn't it?
Yes, they're only, well, revenue, yes, but they're only 10% of the EBIT. So, and that includes the Wall Street Journal, all the Australian newspapers, and all the UK newspapers. So we're talking about, you know, a 0.5% to 1% impact on the EBIT line at most. But strategically, there are bigger issues. In the UK, you've got now the government clearly against News Corporation, whereas before they were either on side or to some degree held captive by the power of News Limited.
Do you think this will actually shake the Murdoch family's control of News Corp?
No. I don't see, again, I don't see how that could happen.
So what is the strategic challenge then?
Well, the strategic issue is licensing and regulation of media ownership. Again, in the UK, I don't think they have too many options, the government that is, to actually change the status quo. But they can clearly prevent News Corp from doing the next thing, which is to attempt to buy B Sky B. Now, B Sky B is a hugely profitable, very successful business, developed largely by Rupert and News Corporation, and you know, by rights they should own all of it. But Rupert really has, you know, he's very good at achieving what he wants to achieve. He will say what he has to say and he'll do what he has to do in order to achieve his goals. Now that doesn't mean he will break the law, but he will, if he has to, do virtually everything else. So, you know, they will not put B Sky B off the agenda, it's just going to be delayed.
And what about in Australia, Scott? Do you think there's a chance of regulatory clampdown here? I mean, obviously there's talk of a parliamentary inquiry of some sort.
There is talk. I think it would be the wrong thing to do because I don't think it's going to go anywhere. There is as yet no evidence that there is any wrongdoing here, and I don't see that the government has any legal recourse to force divestment of existing ownership structures. More important, though, is the US, and where there are requirements for the owner or the operator of a licence to have a good moral standing, then those places are going to be open to litigation, to inquiry, and so on. And in the US, the TV licences are are licensed to an individual. That is Rupert Murdoch.
Well, do you think that at the heart of this is the idea that Rupert has actually hung around too long?
Not really, no. You know, I think there's plenty of capable executives who, you know, who are able to deal with these issues, and who are perfectly capable of running the company in a strategic sense, just as well as Mr. Murdoch. I don't think that that you would have necessarily had a different result. It's Rupert's company. It's always been Rupert's company, and it will continue to be Rupert's company.
Yeah, but that might be turning into a negative now. That's the problem.
Well, from time to time in the past, it's been a negative too. I don't think, you know, I think you can point to many instances where, you know, he hasn't got everything right, and clearly this is one of them. But, you know, I think succession planning and capable executives are there in order to keep things on an even track. Now, obviously, somebody at News International hasn't done that. And whether that's James or other people, there's an issue to be focused on, and the culture has to be changed.
Thanks very much, Scott.
Thank you, Alan.